Yeah, so do you think it is loving to use preferred pronouns or not?
Yes, I do. I do have a partner who's identifies as non-binary, and they do like to prefer they them pronouns, and I think it's personally loving to them to I feel wrong if I don't do that, I
Okay.
guess.
I'm just curious, why would you feel wrong if you address them using, say, biological pronouns?
Well, they do they don't mind it when you call them their bio, but they also do prefer they them when like just casually. And I guess like my viewpoint on it all is just that people can be called what they want to be called, and I don't have anything against that.
I'm just curious, do you think there's any negative consequences to calling someone something that they're not? Just exclude the trans thing for a moment.
Yeah.
Like, say someone was drunk, they thought they were sober, wanted to be addressed as sober. I think you and I would probably both agree there's negative consequences in addressing them as sober if they're drunk, right? And then, like, another example, if someone is perfectly healthy but identifies as having cancer, I think it would be wrong to address them as someone who has cancer rather than as someone who is healthy,
Yeah.
right? There would be negative harm there. So, why would you think that there's not harm in the case of transgenderism?
Well, I don't think your examples there were super related, I
Okay.
guess. I think I don't know like how to describe it fully, but like when I feel like those are like thing I'll just go with it. I just think it is I mean, I do.
You want me to explain why I think they're a good
Yeah,
comparison?
I
Okay.
would.
All right. So let's start with the cancer one. The reason I think that's a really good comparison is an individual who's perfectly healthy but identifies as having cancer, they might seek out chemotherapy, which could result in irreversible fertility loss. In a similar fashion, a male who thinks that he's a female, let's just in this case use an adult, say someone who didn't go on blockers, didn't go on cross-sex hormones, so in this case, rare case, would still be fertile, then chooses to actually have their balls chopped off. They're now suffering from irreversible fertility loss as a result of making a decision consistent with the false belief they held about themselves that was affirmed possibly by others. So in both
Are you
cases,
assuming that it was false, or do you just always think it's false?
when a man identifies as a woman and is male, that's always false.
See, I disagree with like, because my viewpoint on that is they did lose their fertility, but they affirm themselves, and I believe that's important to them, and it makes them feel loved. I guess
But I'm just curious, would you not also apply that to someone who identifies as having cancer even though they don't?
I don't
Because
think identifying because you're not. That's more of a like when I think of a someone who's transgender, I think of that as more of a social thing. Like you're not. Of course, it does have medical ties, but I view it a lot as like I just want to be called this person to person. And then when it comes to like something like cancer or whatever, that's like an actual medical diagnosis. I think it's very objective. Like if you have cancer or you don't.
okay,
And I don't think someone can just say they have cancer in the same way that someone would say.
okay, I think probably a better example then in terms of what you're talking about, caring
Yeah.
more about the social piece of it.
Yes.
Imagine if someone identified as transracial. Do you think it could be harmful to address them as a race that they are not?
Yes. I think that has its own like thing going. I think like cuz like obviously like yeah, try thinking of
You're
this.
good.
Can you just say it one more time?
Yeah, so like someone who's transracial.
Yes.
I think there would be harms in addressing, for example, me as black. If I identified as black, even though I'm not, I think it'd be harmful to people to affirm that false identity and that false belief in me.
Yeah, I do agree with you there because and I guess like that you're trying to tie this to the whole pronoun thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like it doesn't relate too much due to the fact that because I think there are like different types of like if you're, because like there's the whole like obviously like you didn't grow up with those like cultures, or you didn't grow up with like that, as you didn't grow up black obviously, and I guess like it can also be social, but I just don't like, because it's not like you're.
I still think the better comparison, to be honest, is the ones that involve physical changes. So I think the better comparison still would be the cancer one. Because if I believed that I was black, there really wouldn't be that many medical issues with that. Like there would be some, as far as like I might think that I'm not at risk for specific diseases when I could be. I might think that I'm at risk for certain diseases when I'm actually not. But generally, it's not going to be like crazy bad for someone's health. But in contrast, I think the issues with transgenderism, or an individual who thinks they have cancer when they don't, or an individual with bodily integrity identity disorder who wants a healthy limb amputated, I think in all those cases, the medical consequences are very severe. I'd be against, calling someone a race that they are not, but I also don't think that's quite as consequential as the other examples I listed.
So I guess like, can I direct this conversation?
Go for it.
Different. Because I'm viewing it more. I'm not too well versed in the medical field for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was more trying to address like the loving part. Like,
Yeah.
I guess like it can like whatever. Like I guess like so like psychologically, like is it actually harmful to address them as their pronouns, and not like too much like body wise?
Yeah. So like psychologically, there's a concept called the Oedipus trap.
Yeah.
It's where someone has made decisions so drastic and has caused negative consequences to where psychologically they can't bring themselves to admit that they've made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we use preferred pronouns, we further ensnare people in the Oedipus trap, because now instead of them no longer identifying as trans, desisting and having a cisgender identity, instead of that happening and the consequences essentially just being changes that they make by themselves, they now have to inform everyone else who may have changed the way that they address them, and that can present a hurdle to them actually desisting. And I think it's generally better for people to identify with their biological sex, and I don't think we should be putting up hurdles to that. So from a psychological perspective, I still think that it's actually better to not use preferred pronouns, because I don't want people to feel like it would be harder for them to desist.
So, do you think it's at all hurtful to not address someone by their pronouns?
I think some people may feel slighted by it. I think some people may feel hurt by it. But I nevertheless think that it's the best thing to do for people, to practice loving and caring honesty and telling them the truth, rather than affirming their false beliefs about themselves. Because in reality, all of us are going to have false beliefs about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I want to live in a culture where I can trust that when I believe something about myself that is false, those around me will lovingly correct me rather than unconditionally affirm me. Because when I make decisions based upon beliefs that are false about myself, I cause myself harm, and I often cause harm to those around me. And I know this because it's happened to me, where I held a false belief about myself, people didn't correct it, and it came back to bite me in the butt. And I just want to live in a culture where I can rely on other people around me to correct me.
I do get what you're saying. Maybe I don't personally see the harm in, like, I don't see the trap necessarily. I think it's personally as easy as just, I don't feel like there's much of a trap there, as in like when you say let's say I'm just like, I want to be she, her right now. I feel like when you call me she, her, it's just making me feel loved. In the way that, and then, so I'll feel loved, but even if I feel like it's not a trap. I feel like I'd be just as easy to say, I don't feel like I'm she, her anymore, even though you were calling me she, her. I feel like I know lots of people who have changed a lot of times, and that's a little complicated. But I feel like there's never really a trap, as in like, it's not as strong.
So I think there's less of a trap when it's just pronouns.
Okay.
Okay, but I still think it's a trap, but I think it's less of a trap when it's just pronouns. But the thing is, the very use of the pronouns drives someone down a pathway where it becomes more likely that they're going to have physical interventions. And then the trap becomes really big, right? Because if you've gone so far as to either take puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones when growing up, or instead, if you didn't take those as a child, but as an adult, got a gender reassignment surgery, that's going to be really hard to admit you've made a mistake about.
Yeah. But I do believe that most of the time, I guess, like, in some cases, like, people do make mistakes like that, but I do feel like overall, I'm not like overall, but when people do feel like that, there's some cases where it's true, and when they make that surgery, they now are the person they want to be, and they live a happy life.
I'm just curious, though. Would you apply that to like bodily integrity identity disorder, where an individual wants to be an amputee, feels like they're an amputee, but isn't and has healthy limbs? I don't think that would be a justification for like addressing them as an amputee or allowing them to go through with surgeries. I'll let that go, but I'm going to cut out the part with the bell. But do you want to keep going? Is there any other questions you have or comments you want to make on this one?
Just like a small question.
Okay.
I guess, like, obviously, do you think it's immoral for some people to not be saddened by Charlie Kirk's murder, or like to think it was okay?
I think it's definitely immoral for people to think it was okay that he got murdered. And I would also say that it's immoral for people to not be sad that he got murdered or to find joy in that he got murdered.
I guess, like, because, like, I'm Christian, I'm anti-murder, and I'm honestly, like, I just hate guns in general. I'm very, like, I just hate violence in general. Like, anything that can be used in violence I hate, too. I'm just, like, very, like that. But I guess, like, I think there's people who feel like they didn't want Charlie Kirk to be murdered necessarily, but they don't feel wrong that I feel like Charlie Kirk is someone who could have caused a lot of harm to people, in a way that ideologies that can be negative towards people of certain communities. And there are definitely people, I believe, who have been impacted by Charlie Kirk's rhetoric, or I don't know the word, or like what he's did, like not what he did, what he liked to communicate, like what his beliefs were and what he communicated into many colleges, campus and stuff, and like shows or whatever he did. That was not overall harmful, but like could have been harmful to certain people. And I believe that it's okay for those people to not necessarily, like I won't say what I won't judge them for not caring that he got murdered.
Can I just ask you a quick question on that?
Yes.
So I assume, though, that if you were on a jury and you say you had all the evidence, it's beyond a reasonable doubt that an individual did murder Charlie Kirk, that you'd convict, though, right?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I think to me that's the thing I care about most, is just that if people were on a jury, even if they didn't like the guy, that they would still convict the murderer if there's enough evidence.
If there was, I would.
Yeah, that to me is what matters most.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, that to me is what matters most.
The overall justice of it.
Yeah, I do think that people should be sad when anyone is murdered. But to me, what matters most is the jury thing. Because, I mean, if someone comes and murders me, I would hope that the murderer is found guilty after a fair trial.
Yeah. Anything else?
I will just point out, though, if you or someone you know doesn't feel sad that Charlie Kirk died or was murdered, they probably won't feel sad if I get murdered. I'm just saying. Because I share a lot of beliefs that are probably similar to Charlie, or that people who don't pay attention to my beliefs would lump me into as believing the same as Charlie.
Yeah.
And so people who aren't sad by his death, most of them probably wouldn't be sad if I died. I'm just pointing that out.
And then people are proud of being a property owner.
Yeah.
But it was a good conversation, man.
Yeah, I didn't mind.
Thanks for stopping and
This is
talking.
my first time. So.
No worries.